It's a Thursday, top of the hour. We're coming on the air with breaking news. Actor Kevin Spacey found not liable in this high-profile civil sex abuse trial. We're going to take a look inside the courtroom at what we heard today. Plus, President Biden doing a big 180 on his campaign strategy, jumping into the key race in Pennsylvania. Why the White House thinks he can help out Josh Fetterman in his scramble to keep the Senate, as polls show Democrats' chances are tightening up because folks really are not all that happy with the economy. And if you think people here are mad about the economy, check out what's happening overseas, with British Prime Minister Liz Truss stepping down after just 6 weeks. Really, she kind of got the boot. The decision-making really has helped the markets. The pound shot up in value today. Who might replace her? Could it be Boris Johnson again? It's a tough housing market out there. Sales going way down, mortgage rates going way up. Now, twice as high as they were to start the year. But is this the sign that maybe the Fed's interest rate hikes are starting to work? And more on the supposedly magic properties of magic mushrooms, how these psychedelic drugs from the 60s are being used to treat addictions like smoking, later in the show. Good day, I'm Tom Costello in for Hallie, and we start with that breaking news moments ago. A Manhattan jury handed a victory to Kevin Spacey, finding him not liable for the battery of which he was accused by fellow actor Anthony Rapp. Spacey did not make a comment when he left the courthouse just minutes before we came on the air. Rapp accused the Oscar winner of briefly laying on top of him at a bed at a party, in 1986 when Rapp was just 14. Now, the jury really delivered a quick verdict after hearing closing arguments earlier today. The trial lasted for 3 weeks. Rapp was seeking more than $40 million in damages. Rapp's lawyers told the jury Spacey's sex abuse denials at trial were, quote, inconsistent and not worthy of belief. Lawyers for Spacey said Rapp's allegations of sex abuse, quote, never occurred at a party that was never held. We've got this covered from multiple angles tonight. NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos joining us, as well as NBC's Ron Allen outside the courthouse in New York. Ron, let's start with you. This news just broke a short time ago. What's the latest from where you are right there?
Well, Tom, it appeared to me that Kevin Spacey had a slight smile on his face as he was walking out of the courtroom. He didn't say anything, but you could sense that he was relieved. This is the first time that he's actually been on trial for a sexual misconduct allegation, although there have been as many as a dozen or so people who have accused him of doing something wrong, some kind of abuse. And of course, he faces some serious criminal charges in Great Britain. The trial is supposed to start next year. However, today, a victory. This is the charging document, the verdict sheet. And the first question on it is, did Mr. Rapp prove by a preponderance of the evidence that Mr. Fowler, Spacey's name, touched a sexual or intimate part of Mr. Rapp? And the answer was no. And that was the first of 8 questions. But as soon as the jury said no to that, they didn't have to go any further. That's why this took all of an hour and 15 minutes or so of deliberation, one of the quickest deliberations you'll ever encounter after 8 days or so of testimony. Both sides presented very starkly different versions of what happened and what didn't happen. Spacey basically said this never happened. There was never a party. And, oh, by the way, he lived in a studio apartment, so there was not even a bedroom where this could have happened, as Rapp insisted. Spacey's lawyer said that Rapp was motivated by jealousy, by envy, that he wanted to raise his profile, and they sort of mocked him, saying that he has gotten more attention during this trial than he has gotten during his entire career. So that's where things are now. It was a really stunning, quick decision. The judge had thrown out already 2 allegations, 2 complaints against Rapp during this trial, and there was 1 remaining. So that's where it is now. Spacey, again, winning something of a victory today, although, of course, he still has a lot of other legal troubles piling up, not just here, but in Great Britain. Just earlier this year, he was ordered to pay the producers of the Netflix series House of Cards, where he stars, some $30 million because they claimed they had to cancel episodes and reshoot episodes after firing him because of all the allegations of sexual misconduct that were floating around, not just in other places, but also in that production area. So there's that as well. But at the moment, Spacey is left saying nothing, but again, a lot more fights along the way to come.
All right, Ron, thank you. Ron Allen, who's in New York for us. Let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalas. Danny, what do you make of the verdict from a legal standpoint? As Ron points out, it was really quick in coming.
Not too much of a surprise. Look, the Child Victims Act is good legislation. I have cases myself under the Child Victims Act. It's a good idea in theory to expand the statute of limitations, to reopen it for victims to have a second shot at cases they otherwise couldn't bring. But it doesn't change the fact that the plaintiff still has to meet their burden of proof. Now, while that's lighter in a civil case, proving things that happened 30 plus years ago is going to be hard whether or not you have a statute of limitations. In fact, that's why statutes of limitations exist, because of the problems that the plaintiff ran into in this case. It's a problem of proof of the evidence, proving something or disproving something that happened decades ago.
You know, Ron made the point that Spacey faces other charges of sexual misconduct here in the United States as well as abroad. Could the outcome of today's case impact those cases as well?
In theory, maybe, but practically no. I mean, the reality is that this is a discrete case with its own facts and its own victims or its own plaintiffs. And all of those other cases involve other witnesses and other victims and plaintiffs. But overall, taking a step back and looking at the landscape of Spacey litigation, Spacey is winning. His California case has gone away. His Massachusetts case has gone away. Yes, he has an open case in Great Britain. Of course, that's a challenge. But all in all, I mean, he's mostly come out on top in most of his legal cases, which is a fascinating thing given all the allegations against him. So Spacey has lots of his own challenges still coming ahead.
All right, Danny, thank you very much. Danny Savalas joining us. Right now, President Biden is in Philadelphia to do something that he hasn't done much over the last couple of weeks: campaign with a candidate in one of the most competitive Senate races in the country. He'll be raising money for Pennsylvania Lieutenant Governor and Democratic Senate candidate John Fetterman, after the two took a victory lap at a key bridge in Pittsburgh that's being rebuilt with the help of money from the bipartisan infrastructure law. You see what it looked like here in January. Now it should reopen by the end of the year. The president touting his accomplishments while also taking a shot at his predecessor.
Instead of infrastructure week, which was a punchline for 4 years under my predecessor, it's infrastructure decade, a headline on my watch.
It is a notable departure in strategy for the president, which our NBC News sources say is really more focused on this low-key effort to stay out of the spotlight. A senior administration official tells us the focus is on raising money for candidates, but not speaking for them at rallies, because his two predecessors did that in their first midterms and got crushed. Now the president says he's going to be there more for the candidates, really kind of defending how he's campaigning. But the numbers suggest it may not help. Here's why. Mr. Biden is still not all that popular. With 19 days to go until voting ends, our CNBC poll shows his approval rating is up big this quarter, but not enough to get it positive. And he's running behind his Democratic congressional colleagues. We'll talk more about that in polling in just a minute. But let's first get to NBC's Josh Lederman, who covers the president. All right, Josh, the president just had an opportunity last week to jump into close races in Nevada, in Arizona, when he went out west. He declined to do so, right? So this is now a big 180, and he's diving headfirst into arguably the most high-profile race out there. Is the White House panicking that their Senate chances are starting to slip away?
Well, there is no question, Tom, that the White House is aware that the path to winning keeping control of the House and of the Senate has gotten to be harder over the last couple of weeks, not easier, as those gas prices have started to tick up again, and that sense of malaise about the economy has taken hold for a lot of voters. And when you talk about those approval ratings for the president that you were just showing, that means that in certain parts of the country, you have Democrats who are on the ballot who are seeking more distance than they are proximity from President Biden right now, that he hurts more than he helps in some parts of the country. But President Biden has really bristled at the idea that he is not an asset for his fellow Democrats this year. And in fact, as he was stopping for a sandwich with John Fetterman, the lieutenant governor there in Pennsylvania today, President Biden disclosed that both Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock as well as Nevada Senator Cortez Masto have asked him to come campaign for them. Take a listen.
The congressman asked me, well, I don't know that I'm going to be able to get out of Nevada. And Georgia asked me to come down. We're trying to work it out now.
Are you going to go next week?
I don't know where I'm going. I've got about 16, 18 requests.
But by far and away, the way that the White House feels President Biden can be the most helpful to Democrats right now, Tom, is to do these economically focused events like he did today, where what is being put on display, in the White House's view, are the concrete legislative achievements that they believe show voters that Democrats are delivering on those economic promises.
But, you know, Fetterman is not even a big fan of the president. I mean, they don't stand side by side at this event. Fetterman has openly criticized Mr. Biden, and now he's hitching a ride on Air Force One. Why does the White House think that now the president's presence might help out?
Well, certainly among Democrats within Pennsylvania, President Biden remains a popular figure. So when it comes to really turning out your base for the election, President Biden can be a big asset, even to somebody like John Fetterman. And so the president was born in Pennsylvania, as he will be the very first to remind you. He remains popular, especially among African-American voters who are so important to Democrats' chances in the Philadelphia area. And so part of this is an effort to really make sure that if there's a get-out the vote operation in place that the president can be helpful with, even if some of the policies are ones that some Democrats are seeking distance from. You know, one policy, though, that John Fetterman is very supportive of is what President Biden just announced on that marijuana pardons for people convicted of simple possession under federal law. That is one area where John Fetterman is really trying to highlight what President Biden has been doing.
And they needed that bridge repaired, after all, in Pennsylvania. Right. All right, quickly now, we're talking about infrastructure, an area where the president has had a lot of success, but polls show people don't care much about that. Hard to believe when they drive over roads every day, but talk about that and how he tries to overcome that.
Yeah, you know, it's tough. It's a challenge for Democrats to try to message on this economy right now. And a lot of the things that they feel like they've done a good job on, you know, we talk about unemployment. You know, it's hard to go to voters and say, you know, look at the labor participation rate. You know, people want to know what they're actually feeling when they go to the gas station, when they go to buy things. And that's why you see President Biden focusing on these infrastructure things like an actual bridge over a river. Before the bridge was rebuilt, people couldn't drive over it. Now they could. Things that are very tangible in people's lives. They feel like that is the best way to counteract some of the negatives about higher prices and inflation as they try to sell people on Democrats' ability to handle the economy.
Yeah, if it's your bridge and your road, you care about it. Josh, thank you. Josh Letterman. All right, let's now get back to that CNBC poll, which is showing a major advantage for Republicans when it comes to the economy, given that inflation is the #1 concern for voters leading up to Election Day. Now, the GOP has a double-digit lead on a number of issues, including bringing down inflation, dealing with taxes, and creating jobs. Democrats, for their part, they lead on looking out for the middle class and also on reducing health care costs. But given more than 70% of Americans think that the cost of living is going to get worse over the next year, it may not be enough to give Democrats an edge. Republicans lead by 2 points on the generic ballot for Congress. CNBC, Steve Leisman joins me now. All right, Steve, the experts that CNBC is talking to said that this could be similar to 2014 when the GOP flipped the Senate and expanded their House majority. So why did they think that?
Well, because a lot of the numbers are the same. I think you said earlier in the show that President Biden's approval rating did rise 10 points, but it's still just 40% on the economy. That's pretty much where President Obama was in 2014. State of the economy being excellent or good, 18% in 2014, 16% now. I just go down the list here, Tom, and home values were a problem. The stock market was a problem. All of that was problematic back then, and it looks very similar. Our Republican pollster from Public Opinion Strategies, Michael Roberts, says if it was an election just about the economy, which he knows it's not, But if it were, he believes it would be a shellacking for the Democrats at this point.
A shellacking. Okay, well, we mentioned the president actually has seen a big boost. You put up the numbers there compared to the last survey 3 months ago. Do experts see that as a sign of momentum then there, or do they think this is now capped out?
So it looks like what happened. I mean, I have to give you the context to this, Tom, is that our July poll was like a crater for the president and on the economy. Remember, we were the market was way down, the gas prices were way up, inflation was surging. It was a terrible poll for the president back then. He really hit the lowest marks we'd seen back then. So he came back 10 points, and substantially that return is the Democrats coming home. A slight pop on one aspect from independents rejoining, but when it came to the economy, they were pretty much flat. So it's really Democrats coming home and not really gaining the ear or the affection of the independents, who, when we look at the issues and where they stand, what's important to them, and who they think is going to solve the problems, they're looking a lot more like Republicans on the key economic issues.
And, you know, when we talk about inflation, people are not happy with the Fed hiking rates to deal with inflation. I think a lot of people don't know the Fed is independent, right? The president doesn't control the Fed.
No, that's right. But it is interesting. We did ask about people's views on the Federal Reserve and confidence in the Federal Reserve. Two different ideas. The first is the Federal Reserve in confidence ranks lower than Republicans in Congress and Democrats in Congress, which we were surprised to see. The other aspect of it is, because how you can't get much lower than that, but it was just 15% are very confident or quite confident in the Federal Reserve. But the other thing is, when we asked, do you think the Fed is going to be successful at reducing inflation by raising interest rates, 53% said yes.
But it'll be painful, as we know. You and I talk about it all the time. Steve, thank you. Steve Leisman at CNBC headquarters. All right, we want to head over now to the UK, where the British pound rose against the dollar today on news that Prime Minister Liz Truss is stepping down this morning, really kind of forced out. The pound is at 113 against the dollar right now. $1.13 buys a pound. Truss's resignation comes after just 6 drama-filled weeks in office, marked by economic chaos. And as we said, yesterday, inflation in the UK at a 40-year high, even worse than the United States. Just last night, Truss said that she was a fighter, she was not a quitter, but apparently that did not hold long. And now she has the dubious distinction of being Britain's shortest-serving prime minister. She served just 46 days in office. Here's what she told reporters earlier today when she broke the news.
Given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected by the Conservative Party. I have therefore spoken to His Majesty the King to notify him that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party.
And now the big question is, who might replace her? The former finance minister, there you see him there, Rishi Sunak, is one of the favorites. But another plot twist, are you ready for this? Some are hinting that Boris Johnson might be back. With the Times UK reporting, he's expected to run for his old job. He resigned just 3.5 months ago amid numerous scandals and allegations of lying. Sky News anchor Wilfred Frost joins me now from outside of number 10. All right, Wilfred, the drama around Truss and her cabinet have been simmering for weeks, and now her opponent, is this possible? Her opponent is likely a successor.
Yeah, so I'm referring to Rishi Sunak, of course, there, who came second to her over the summer. I mean, first of all, as you said, this has been simmering for weeks, particularly 3 weeks into her premiership when she announced that disastrous economic policy, and she's been mortally wounded ever since. Rishi Sunak has been installed by bookmakers as the favourite to succeed her. Also in the running is Penny Mordaunt, who came third to her in the summer, and as you said, very much also in with a chance is the man she replaced, Boris Johnson, who could make a return to Downing Street after just a 2-month hiatus. Extraordinary.
It is extraordinary, and now he's got supporters on Twitter calling for it under the hashtag #BringBackBoris. What is the real actual appetite? It has only been 3 months, and he left in disgrace.
Yeah, and he has got a chance. I think it's worth pointing out that the leadership election over the summer was 7 weeks. This one will be 7 days. We'll find out the next Prime Minister by next Friday. And part of the reason for speeding it up is a hope to unite the party. And a step within that is to raise the bar of what's needed to get onto the shortlist. You need 100 MPs of only 370 or so to nominate you to even get on the shortlist. And that's Boris Johnson's biggest challenge. If he gets that far, he'll suddenly become favourite because many in the party still adore him. But that then comes to the question of appetite. And whilst there's many that adore him, there's plenty that despise him, frankly. And if what the party needs and the country needs now is unity, he might not be the man for that.
Hey, can you speak to the situation, the economic challenges right now that a new prime minister will face? Because the economy in the UK is arguably already in a recession. Talk that this winter could look like the 1970s in Britain. I've heard some pretty dark forecasts for the UK.
Yeah, there's no positive outlooks for the economy whatsoever. And whoever gets this position not only has a politically challenging task to unite various warring factions, but an unbelievably tricky economy to face. And as we have learned in the last couple of weeks, something that Liz Truss learned all too well is if you decide to tackle one problem, spend more money to bail consumers out with these high energy prices, you create another one. Interest rates shoot up, and that hits people's mortgages. A recession, I would say, is inevitable, Tom. You were too kind on that forecast, unlike in the US, where it's still open to debate. And perhaps, though, there's a little lesson there for other Western economies. Will there now be a new wave where you can't just throw money at the problem because the markets will punish you? That's certainly what happened to Liz Truss.
You've spent all day out there for a British audience and now a U.S. audience. So, Wilfred, thank you very much, and we hope you warm up soon. Thank you. Turning now back to the economy here in the United States, historically, really bad numbers out today on the U.S. housing situation. Existing home sales falling to a 10-year low. They're now selling at their slowest pace since 2012. The reason, of course, sharply higher mortgage rates. The average rate now 7.3% on a 30-year fixed loan. Compare that to just 3% at the beginning of the year. So we turn now to our resident expert on all things real estate, CNBC's senior real estate correspondent, Diana Olick, to help us break all of this down. All right, Diana, why are home sales and home supply, why is it all so low, so tight right now?
Well, you know, Tom, as you know, usually when home sales go down, there's less demand, and that would mean supply goes up. But this is such a historically unique housing market that none of the rules really apply. The problem is that you have low home sales because mortgage rates are so high. And so then you have sellers who are saying, you know what? I don't think I want to put my home on the market because at this point, am I trading a 3% mortgage rate for a 7.4% mortgage rate on my next house? I don't think I want to do that. Then you've got the home builders who also have higher costs, and so they're not building as much anymore because they're not seeing demand come through the door. So you have still low supply, low demand from buyers because of these higher rates, and that means prices aren't actually coming down that much, Tom.
Yeah, and listen, I've been watching you religiously all day, as I always do on CNBC, and I've been talking to experts also, and they're saying we're in a housing recession right now, right? In fact, KPMG's chief economist is calling this already a housing recession.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a correction. The home builders called the housing recession 2 months ago, and that was when construction had been coming down for several months, and then the realtors came after them and called it a housing recession. It doesn't matter what you call it. It's definitely a correction. You are seeing a big slowdown in sales. You are seeing a big slowdown in construction, and you're also seeing that home buyer demand pulling back because of the lower affordability. And believe it or not, we are seeing prices come back a little bit. That is that they usually come down this time of year because you buy a big house in the spring because you don't want to move the kids during school, so you move in the summer, and then in the fall, generally smaller homes sell, and that's less expensive homes. So you generally see that median home price come down in the fall, but it's coming down a lot faster right now than we normally see that, and that's because of the dynamics going on.
All right, you always remind us the Fed does not set mortgage rates, but mortgage rates are influenced by the Fed. So does this mean then that the Fed's rate hikes are starting to work? It may not, and this is the side effect. This is the price we pay, but that, in fact, the Fed's rate hikes are starting to slow the economy and maybe slow inflation.
Well, that's in the inflation side, but are they slowing the housing market? Most definitely. The question is, what are they doing to prices in the long run? How low are prices going to fall? They haven't fallen year over year yet. They have fallen month to month. But again, they usually do at this time of year. It's just a lot. But you have to look at what buyers are up against. When you talk about all they have to pay for in an inflated economy, now, if you're buying a $400,000 home and you put 20% down on a 30-year fixed, your monthly payment is now $900 a month more than it would have been just back in January. So there is still, inflation in the housing market. It just depends on how you want to slice it.
Yeah, I talked to a new home buyer, and she said, I am just barely making the payments now because the rate is higher than I expected. Diana Olick, as always, thank you. Great expertise. We have breaking news just in the last few minutes. The Supreme Court is denying a petition by a Wisconsin-based tax group to block President Biden's student loan relief program. The order was signed by Justice Amy Coney Barrett, who oversees the appeals court where the request came from. She did not provide any reason for the rejection, but this case has gotten thrown out by other lower courts already for a lack of standing by the plaintiff. Debt cancellation could begin as soon as Sunday. The White House says more than 8 million borrowers have already applied. Coming up, law enforcement sources say a missing Princeton student has been found dead, where her body was found and what police are saying about her death. Plus, a warning about gas stoves. A study found some in California were leaking chemicals linked to cancer. We're going to have more on that coming up in our 5 Things. Forgive me, but we've got a buzzy story for the wrong reasons. Police say a woman unleashed bees on sheriff's deputies. Yeah, you want to stick around for this one, coming up in a local. First, though, listen to this. We want to talk now about the surge in the pediatric respiratory illness, RSV, that is straining some children's hospitals around the country. Texas Children's, the largest children's hospital in the entire U.S., is seeing cases surge across the state. Hospital and ICU beds at Comer Children's Hospital in Chicago, they've been full for over a month now. And Connecticut Children's Hospital is considering installing a field tent on the hospital's lawn to cope with an influx of patients. The hospital has more than a dozen pediatric patients waiting for beds already. Infectious disease experts say rates of RSV, rhinovirus, and enterovirus are higher than expected for the same time of the year, for this time of the year. NBC senior medical correspondent Dr. John Torres joins us now. John, first questions first. Do we have any idea why RSV, which is a common virus, why is it suddenly surging like this?
And Tom, we do have a bit of an idea, and like you mentioned, RSV is a very common virus, so common that most children get it before the age of 2. But what's happened over the last couple of years because of the pandemic, masking, social distancing, all those things we do to keep that under control, it's also kept RSV under control, which means that the children who would have gotten it during the pandemic didn't get RSV, and the children that were born during the pandemic are now coming to the age where they could get RSV. So we have the double pool of children who could potentially get it and spread it to other children, particularly their siblings. And so we think that extra spread is what's causing it not only to be more at this time, but also start earlier than we usually see these surges. And that's the big concern. Are these surges going to continue because we're not even close to typical peak season, which is December through February. Usually around October we start seeing it. We don't see a peak until December timeframe. And if this is the peak, then it's peaking early. If it's not the peak, then we have even more issues coming up because there could potentially be even more children that are getting hospitalized with this. But like you mentioned, it is a common virus. Most children get it and only have cold-like symptoms, but occasionally children do have this issue. And average on the year, about 55,000 children end up getting hospitalized because of it.
Is that right? 55,000. Well, listen, you kind of explained we just have a bigger pool of kids who are right now vulnerable. All right, so give the symptoms then for parents. What should they be looking for, and when should they go to the hospital?
And so for most children, it's just going to be cold-like symptoms. They're going to get a runny nose, a sneeze, a cough, maybe some low-grade fevers. But if they start wheezing, if they start having trouble, difficulty breathing, particularly if smaller children get lethargic or get unresponsive and they have breathing issues where you can start seeing their ribs, that's called retraction, you definitely want to get to the emergency room as fast as you can. But for most children, again, this is going to be a common cold-type symptoms that they get. It'll pass. But for occasionally those children, they might need to be hospitalized. They might need to be checked up on. And so it's a good idea to keep an eye on everybody.
Yeah, every parent knows that's a scary time. John, thank you. Dr. John Torres. All right, let's get you over now to the 5 things that our team really thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, today the wife of a U.S. diplomat pleaded guilty in British court to driving carelessly, leading to the death of a teenager. In 2019, Anne Sakoulas, she was driving on the wrong side of the road in England. She hit 19-year-old Harry Dunn on his motorcycle. Sakoulas left Britain shortly after the accident. She was claiming diplomatic immunity. The U.S. refused to extradite her. Sentencing is set for next month. It's not clear, though, if she will show up in person. Dunn's parents say they now have justice for their son. Number 2, the chickenpox vaccine. You may have gotten it as a kid. It turns out it's really helping. A CDC study found cases have decreased by 97% since the U.S. started vaccinating children in 1995. Researchers say the vaccine now prevents almost 4 million cases in this country each year. Number 3, college enrollment is down. Again, early data released today from the National Student Clearinghouse shows a drop of just over 1% of undergraduate students this fall. It's the 3rd straight year in declines. This year's number is better than thought from last year, though, when enrollment was down 3.1%. By the way, good news, African-American enrollment up 6.5%. Number 4, some gas stoves in California leaked hazardous chemicals, even when they're not on. According to a new study published by the Journal of Environmental Science and Technology, the study looked at 159 stoves across 16 counties in California. One chemical found in almost every one of those homes is benzene. It's known to cause cancer in some people with long-term exposure. One of the study's co-authors says if you ever smell gas, you should leave your home immediately and, of course, call the gas company or the fire department. Number 5, the CEO of a major entertainment agency is calling on companies, including Apple and Spotify, to stop working with Kanye West. In an op-ed in the Financial Times, Ari Emanuel says those who continue to do business with West are giving his misguided hate an audience, end quote. The rapper who legally changed his name to Ye got locked out of his accounts on Instagram and Twitter this month after anti-Semitic comments there. Coming up, Nevada officials say a boy died from a brain-eating amoeba where they think he got sick. Coming up in the local. Plus, NOAA's new forecast says it's going to be cooler than normal in some states this winter. Well, that's great news, right? What that means for heating your home and where it's going to be warm. I'm headed there. Stay with us. We're back with some sad news. A Princeton University student who had been missing for days has been found dead on the campus grounds. The body of 20-year-old Mizrach Onate was discovered by a university employee behind the school's tennis courts this afternoon. The prosecutor there says there are no obvious signs of injury and her death does not appear to be suspicious or criminal in nature. NBC News correspondent Emily Akeda joins us now with more on this. This is just a tragic story here, Emily. What are authorities saying about this case?
Hey there, Tom. Yeah, the outcome that no one wanted to hear. Authorities found 20-year-old Mizrach Onate's body just steps from where I'm standing. You can see kind of the fenced-off area behind me. Those are worker grounds. Just beyond that are tennis courts. And in that area is where a facility worker came across the 20-year-old's body around 1 p.m. this afternoon. Now, they say that an autopsy will ultimately determine the official cause and manner of death. But in a statement, they say there were no obvious signs of injury and her death does not appear suspicious or criminal in nature. Princeton University says law enforcement believes that there's no related threat on campus or in the surrounding areas. But tonight they are offering counseling services for so many people with heavy hearts this evening. They're also planning a gathering for the 20-year-old. Tom.
I know you had the terrible task today of talking to her family. I'm sure they were just worried sick before this news came out. Any reaction now?
Yeah, just a heart-wrenching development for them. You know, just a few hours ago, I saw them handing out missing persons flyers around the campus. A lot of them had flown in from around the country when they learned of her disappearance. Mizrach Onate, her family had emigrated from Ethiopia when she was a young girl. She went on to graduate from her high school in Ohio at the top of her class. She was part of and linked up with this group called Minds Matter, and they really help students from low-income families help achieve high higher education. She was described as a woman quiet but friendly, really studious, focused and determined. And now they're all facing and reflecting on this unthinkable tragedy tonight, Tom.
And we underscore that the police do not think that there is a risk to the community. Emily, thank you very much. NBC News covers hundreds of stories each day, and because you could not possibly read, watch, or listen to all of them, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions. It's a segment we like to call The Local. From our Western Bureau, Nevada health officials say a boy has died after being infected with a rare brain-eating amoeba. They think he may have been exposed at the Arizona side of Lake Mead earlier this month. Infections from this kind of amoeba are generally rare, but almost always they are deadly. NBC News has reached out to park officials for comment. From our Southeast Bureau, 5 former daycare employees in Mississippi have been charged after a video went viral. Look at that, showing a worker scaring kids. And according to our affiliate in Tupelo, video shows one worker in a scary mask walking around the kids who are crying and screaming. The local sheriff's office did not immediately respond to questions about this whole thing, and the daycare facility and its owner could not be immediately reached. From our Northeast Bureau, a Massachusetts woman is facing several charges. Don't do this. She allegedly unleashed a swarm of bees on sheriff's deputies who were serving an eviction notice. Police say the woman pulled up in her car to protest, and she had a flatbed of beehives. She allegedly began opening the lids, and the bees swarmed the area. Both officers and other folks nearby were stung. Deputies say the woman put on a beekeeper suit to protect herself before being taken into custody. When we come back, breaking news just into us on the investigation into former President Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 Georgia election results. We're going to have that for you. Plus, a new forecast out on how cold it might get this winter. Yep, bundle up, and it may cost you more with your heating bills. Coming back. More breaking news to tell you about right now. A federal appeals court is denying a request by Senator Lindsey Graham to avoid a subpoena from the Fulton County DA, who is investigating former President Trump's attempts to overturn the 2020 election in Georgia. The DA there wants to speak with Graham about conversations he had with Georgia's Secretary of State and the Trump campaign. Graham is expected to appeal to the Supreme Court. It's unclear when he might face a grand jury, but it's not expected to happen until after the election. Now to a long-range weather forecast that could be costly and chilly. This winter could be colder than normal, meaning that home energy bills, of course, will likely go up. According to the latest outlook from NOAA, a dozen states, stretching from Oregon to Michigan, could see winter temps below normal. And there's a lot of play here. Colder temps, of course, will have people using more fuel to heat their homes. Add in the inflation factor and increased demand from Europe, which is facing a shortage of supply of its own due to the war in Ukraine, and consumers are expected to be left with a hefty bill. NBC meteorologist Bill Cairns joins me now to talk through this. Bill, the combination, colder weather, high heating costs, that's a double whammy, and another example of how climate change, as you and I discussed earlier this week, it's impacting people's wallets.
Tom, the big number is 28% higher. That's how much the energy, either your natural gas or electricity to heat your home, it's going to be 28% more expensive. So even if the temperature is the same as last year, go look at your bills and you'll be paying almost 30% more. And then if it's even colder than last winter, I mean, your heating bill could almost be double what it was. So our best forecasters in our National Weather Service across the country, the Climate Prediction Center, they're called, they just came out with the winter outlook. And this is their winter outlook it goes from December, January through February. And this shows you where they think it's going to be colder than normal and warmer than normal. This is going to be the third winter in a row, what we call a La Nina winter. It's kind of rare. It's a triple dip. We don't usually see that. But what we're going to have this winter should be very similar to what you did last winter. It's going to be colder than average, northern half of the country. The southern half of the nation looks to be warmer than normal, and some of that warmth could come up the East Coast. So it's just some of those tips. And I know this is tough. They recommend keeping your house at 68 degrees. And for every degree that you drop that, you save save 2% on your energy bill. I know some people go like 66, 64, but that's like beyond my threshold.
Yeah.
Portable space heaters also, Tom, is a recommendation. Then, of course, you got to go through, eliminate the drafts, cover up the windows, all those little things to save you money.
Yeah, but be careful on the space heaters.
Yes.
How many stories do we do every year of people dying of carbon monoxide or dying of fires? Hey, listen, 82% of, let's put that map back up, because 82% of the continental United States in drought conditions. So what's the precipitation forecast for this winter? And didn't we have fires last winter when it was dry like that, and it just raged?
We are desperate for water, especially in the West. We've talked about the mega drought for the last 20, 25 years, but now we have a lot of drought conditions developing in the middle of the country. So here's the forecast for weather there. Everyone wants to know, are we going to have a snowy winter? Well, we don't go that far, but we do say there's an above average chance of precipitation. It will either be snow or rain in all of the Great Lakes, northern portions of New England, and the Pacific Northwest. But look at the whole southern half of the country, drier than normal. And this is our current drought map. Anywhere that's colored in yellow is in drought. That's about 80 to 82% of the country, and where we have the darker colors of orange and red, that's where we're in extreme and exceptional drought. And one of the stories you've probably been seeing around, or you're going to hear about it shortly if you haven't already, is the Mississippi River right now is extremely low. In many cases, it's the lowest they have ever recorded. We desperately need rainfall over the Mississippi River basin. These are some pictures. Of course, the economic lifeblood of our country, and even the world's food supply comes up and down the Mississippi River. So this is going to be a developing story as we go throughout the winter, too. 92% of the nation's agricultural exports come up and down the Mississippi River, Tom. So that's going to be a huge issue. We need the rainfall in the middle of the country, in the West, just about everywhere, and it doesn't look like a very wet winter.
And every one of those lakes out there in the West that is bone dry and no relief in sight in the forecast. All right, Bill, thank you. I'm going to call you for good news tomorrow, okay? Thank you very much. It's the first week of early voting in Georgia, and voters are already out in record numbers. State officials tell NBC News that 400,000 people in Georgia have cast in-person ballots since Monday on that key Senate race between incumbent Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock and Republican nominee Herschel Walker, who has denied recent allegations that he paid for a former girlfriend to have an abortion. He insists he's pro-life. But a lot of voters our team spoke to say they are focused on other issues like the economy, and the stakes here could not be higher. Georgia is, of course, one of 10 races that the teams tracking the midterms believe are likely to determine control of the Senate. NBC's Allison Barber is in Georgia for us tonight.
Georgia voters have a lot to say about inflation and the cost of gas. The candidates do as well. Incumbent Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock had an event in Atlanta last night, and he talked about the cost of gas. He focused on efforts that he is working on in Washington, D.C., and said that in Washington they need to do more to hold oil companies accountable for what he described as record profits, while people are seeing record prices. Herschel Walker, the Republican candidate, he talked about it at a campaign event in Macon, Georgia today. He places the blame for rising prices solely on the shoulders of President Biden and Senator Warnock. People we have spoken to, regardless of how they identify politically, say gas prices, the prices they're seeing at the grocery store, it matters, and it's impacting the way that they vote. Listen.
It's definitely made me more self-conscious about the decisions I make every day, right? Whether just going out and about.
Yeah, it will definitely impact the way I vote. It's the number one thing. There's a lot of reasons for inflation, but I really feel like the Democratic administration just threw money to less resources due to the pandemic, would just set the inflation on fire.
And we asked the voters we spoke to about President Biden's announcement yesterday that he was going to release 15 million barrels of oil from the strategic reserve. Most of the Republicans we spoke to said they felt like it was solely a politically motivated decision. Most of the Democratic voters we spoke to, they said that it was a step in the right direction, though they didn't see one person, one administration as responsible for what happens as it relates to the price of gas. The one thing we keep hearing consistently from voters on both sides of the aisle is they're worried about the price of gas. They're paying attention to it. And again, it's impacting the way that they vote. Tom?
Ellison, thank you very much. Still to come, our backstory tonight is all about researchers looking into using psychedelic drugs, some call them magic mushrooms, to help smokers break the habit, how their approach is different, and what it's like covering this kind of a story as a doctor. Coming up next. Time now to get to our backstory. This is our behind-the-scenes look at how a story kind of comes together and how it fits into our bigger picture. Now, we're taking a look back at now the psychedelic drugs from the 1960s, and now they're changing the medical landscape. I covered the story for the Today Show 3 years ago when Johns Hopkins University got some eye-opening results from a revolutionary treatment, and I spoke then to the program coordinator at Johns Hopkins. This is literally the room where people go on a trip.
Yes.
Yeah, quite literally, they trip out on shrooms. They were using psilocybin, a key ingredient in hallucinogenic drugs like LSD and mushrooms to treat depression. And now Hopkins researchers are studying how magic mushrooms can actually help people like Anne Levine with a different issue altogether, and that is smoking. NBC's Dr. Akshay Syal is here with us. She spoke to Anne about how she took a chance on this treatment after spending 40 years smoking nearly a pack a day, and she told him it was life-changing.
I felt like Pandora's box was opened, and like all of the nasty, yucky, sad, angry feelings that I'd ever had kind of just came flying out.
All right, Dr. Syal is with us now. Doctor, I talked to some people 3 years ago who had the same experience being treated for depression, for example. This is really amazing because this is a Schedule I drug. You're really not supposed to be using it, right, recreationally, but to see this key ingredient from this drug being used in a medical treatment, is this surprising to you?
Good evening, Tom. Yeah, it's certainly not something that they taught in medical school. And the important thing here is they're using the psilocybin, the component in magic mushrooms, and they're also using therapy. So it's kind of a 1-2 punch. And they think this works by psilocybin making your brain more open to change, and that therapy kind of guiding you in the right direction. So it's really both components here that are important.
When I was there at Johns Hopkins, they said that they have to keep these people in close eye contact, literally in a closed room, because when they're tripping out, they could, if they're not watched, they could jump out a window, right? That there still is a risk with these drugs.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, the researchers told me they want this, eventually they see this coming under, close supervision if this does make its way into clinical use. And, our patient Anne that we spoke to, she told me that during her trip session, she was telling, stop, I want this to be over. It was not a pleasant experience for her. It did eventually work out, and she was able to kick those cravings for cigarettes. But at the time, it wasn't something that was quite enjoyable.
That's exactly what I heard from other people who said it was terrifying. It was the scariest moment of their lives. What are you hearing from other professionals about the future of psilocybin and how it could be working for other people?
A few months ago, NYU had actually reported some really positive results in a gold standard trial about psilocybin helping drinkers quit. They had people who had been suffering from alcohol use disorder, and after a couple sessions of psilocybin and after going through therapy, they were able to stop as well. So I think the big thing is here, we have these addictions that the current treatments aren't really not working as well. It's smoking, whether it's alcohol. So the doctors are becoming more and more open to trying other things, and you'll see that as the NIH has funded the first psychedelic trial in half a century at Johns Hopkins to study smoking.
One of the docs at the time told me that psilocybin seems to create a vast new or opens up networks in the brain, that suddenly everything is firing on all cylinders again, and it's like cleaning out the cobwebs. How does this trial differ from other trials?
It's pretty similar in the sense that there is psilocybin that, like you said, cleans out the cobwebs, and then there's that therapy to guide you in the right direction. And for your viewers out there, I'll just add that room that we just saw you in. It looks like any old therapist's office, but actually there's a blood pressure monitor in there, if you remember, and they're looking at your vitals to make sure that nothing goes awry and you're not having any side effects. So that's really the difference between that room and a therapist's office.
Do not try this at home. Dr. Syal, thank you very much. All right, that's a wrap for us at this hour. We're going to have much more for you right here tomorrow, same time, same place. In the meantime, the news continues.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.